Well, first of all, Ryan, this is an absolute honor. Thanks for being on the ReelBlend Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Truly an honor. I want to talk to you about, so we have a couple different hosts on our show, Sean and Jake, and Sean actually gave this great question about when you're writing a film like this, when you're dealing with a whodunit idea, at what point in the writing process do you find who the killer is going to be? Is it at the beginning of the writing process? Do you find it midway through writing? Right. When does that come about?
Well, I mean, the way I write, and I've done this with all my movies, it's a little different than that. I start really, really structurally. So I start even more like satellite map, zoomed back, abstract than plot. I start with in the case of this movie, for example, you know, I love whodunits. I know I wanted to do a whodunit, but I also know one of the potential pitfalls of a whodunit is that it's kind of a big build up to one big surprise at the end, which isn't all that interesting. Like, who done it? Can you guess it? Can you not? Who cares? Kind of. So the idea here was to keep everything I love about who done it, but put the engine of a Hitchcock thriller in the middle. And so I have that idea, and then I zoom in a little bit more, and I think, okay, well, that means we need a character that you care about throughout the course of it. That means we kind of maybe do this sort of thing, and that means we need this. And so as I'm filling in the blanks, I kind of create what I need to make that shape work, including the characters, including the plot. So it's not like I start with, what if this person did it in the library with the candlestick, you know, and then build it backwards or go forwards and discover that. I start thinking narratively about the shape of the whole thing and then create the pieces as I need them.
Were there alternate killers?
No,
it
because
was always this one.
Yeah,
killer.
because if you work that way, you kind of it's not even like a, you know, and the truth is they're kind of, hopefully you construct it so they're kind of dramatically can't be, you know. And I mean, there's only one way it really works because it's designed to work that way.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Now, I believe you shot digitally on this movie, and you've shot film for a long time, and the movie still looks like film, which is interesting to me. When I found out it was digital, I was like, "What, really?" I had no idea. What was it like for you as a director working digitally, in the sense of like, did it affect the way you shot? Did it affect the way you filmed? Because film runs out, mags run out, obviously.
You know what was
it like for you?
Digital runs out too. You still got to change the chip. Yeah, that's kind of a big lie of digital. You can just keep shooting and shooting. You can't. You still have a chip. It lasts a little longer than a big film thing, but not significantly though. So it's I didn't change my process at all on set. I'm not one of those guys who just keeps the camera rolling and goes over. It was still very much, you know, start, stop, just like I would shoot with film. Yeah, for me, it was almost like an existential crisis for me shooting on digital with this one. Like the choice to shoot on digital, because I have just been a big film guy my entire life. Was it
your idea?
No, it was Steve Yedlin, my cinematographer's idea. And Steve and I have a very close relationship. We've been like best friends since we were 17 years old. And he shot all of my movies, which we've always done on film. And he's also an incredibly technically adept color science guy. And Steve basically has it's almost a philosophy. It's based in facts. It's basically, from Steve's perspective, right now with imaging technology, there's no reason that what you capture your image on needs to define the look of what you're doing. And so whether you shoot on film, what Steve told me over and over is it's harder for him to make film look like film than to make digital look like film.
Wow.
Because every single thing you see, whether it's shot on film or digital, it goes through the exact same digital post chain and the exact same DI, the digital color correction process. And that means for the film, you have to scan the film into a computer and make sure you're getting fidelity in that step where you're doing the scanning. And then you have to take that image and color time it. And then you're going to either spit it out to a DCP or maybe go back to film at the end. I mean, the truth is there are movies every year that are shot on film that look more digital than our movie does, basically. Anyway, so Steve's whole thing is about I'm sorry, this is a very long answer.
No,
it's interesting
to me.
Okay, good. Yeah. So Steve's whole thing is if you know what you're doing with the color science, you can apply grain to it. We even applied a filter that imitated the halation, which is kind of the way that the light that flares discolor with film. He applied a gate weave to it, so the whole image is shaking a little bit the whole time, which indicates to your eye that it's film. And then he has a color science where he's emulated film and with his color curves and programmed lookup tables where it emulates the color of film. And man, I'll tell you, there's one shot in the movie that's on 35. For my birthday, Steve brought in a 35 camera because he knew I was heartbroken. We shot one film on 35. It's a close-up of Daniel. It's in the movie, and I'll be damned if you can tell shot to shot which one it is.
Why that shot was just?
It happened to be the one. Yeah,
Can you tell me what I've seen it twice now. I want to know what it is.
I never want to tell anyone the shot. I'll tell you this. It's a close-up of Daniel during the final big library scene.
Okay.
It's kind of just. It's nothing too special about it. It's just a close-up.
Is there dialogue in the close-up?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll look for it.
Take a look, see if you can spot it.
Okay.
You can't. Spoiler, you can't.
This is the game now. I'm gonna go out and see it like 10 more times.
Yeah.
Was there ever an idea of shooting Jedi digitally?
We shot about
JJ
half
shot
and half. Well,
film, right?
we shot about half and half.
Oh, you shot half and half.
Yeah,
on that.
and the truth is, we started shooting mostly film, and by the end, we were shooting mostly digital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I love about this movie, the idea, I told you this when I saw you at Marriage Story and at TIFF, is this shot where Anna's character is coming out of the house after we find out what happens with the will reading.
Yeah.
And it's this gorgeous shot where the camera gets picked up as if we're kind of like going into the anxiety of that moment.
Yeah.
I think you told me at Marriage Story that you've been trying to do that shot for years. Can you talk about the history of why that shot never made it into another movie of yours, and like what was the original design of it? What movies did you originally have it designed for?
I've tried to do it a couple of times where the idea of starting on a dolly and then a certain dramatic point in the scene switching to handheld. I mean, it's not like a breakthrough idea or something, but it's just something that we've tried a few times and it's never quite worked.
But it immerses you in the moment.
That's the idea, is if you do it right, it pulls you into the headspace of the character. So, and the whole movie, I don't think there's any other handheld in the entire movie. It's a very locked down, solid movie. And so we have this shot where to get inside Anna's character's head, we start on a dolly, a very basic thing, and then suddenly chaos surrounds Anna and we just literally lift it off the dolly and go into handheld mode, and go into a long shot from there. So yeah, it was gratifying to get that one in there.
Do you write that shot in the script? Is that
no?
something?
I don't like to write shots into scripts. I mean, I'm thinking visually while I'm writing, so I'm picturing shots while I'm writing. But when I'm writing, I'm really trying to write for a reader. Yeah. And to me, if I'm sitting there describing every single shot, that's just getting in the way of you experiencing the story as a reader. And I feel like I don't need to dictate shots because I'm going to be the one who's on set, setting them up. Yeah. So yeah.
One thing I love about your filmmaking over the years, and you and I did a Brothers Bloom Q&A in DC once. Brick, obviously, you make very, very awesome, unique films that speak to your voice. I know I'm watching a Rian Johnson film in the sense of like I love your style, I love your taste, but everything still feels different every time. But I think you take risks, and I think more filmmakers should take risks in regards to storytelling and things they do. I read a great quote recently I'm sure you've seen it by now, by J.J. Abrams, who said that Episode 9 is what it is because of the risks you took on Episode 8. What did that mean for you to read him saying that? Because like that, I think that's such a cool thing. You're not making the movie that's already been made before. You're making your own movie. And I feel like 9 now seems like it's going to be a more risky film because of what you set up with 8.
Well, I mean, that was just so incredibly kind of JJ to say that. I mean, I know, I don't think JJ needs any inspiration from me. I think he's an incredible storyteller who I knew from the instant that he, that he was doing, that I knew that he was doing 9. He's going to figure out a way that's going to both completely surprise all of us and satisfy us deeply at the end of the saga. So, but those are incredibly kind words from him. But
do you know where it goes though?
I'm staying.
That's interesting.
I want to sit down like a Star Wars fan and just get my popcorn and just be 10 years old again and see this whole thing brought home in a beautiful way that surprises me. So
how can you be
wait.
10 years old again if you made the movie before it? Like, that's crazy.
Well, you totally can. Of course you can. You snap right back into it, man. It's Star Wars, It just it takes you there. It transports you. The instant that John Williams score comes up, the instant you're back in that world, and it's just you hear those lightsaber sounds. It's just snap, you're back to being 10.
What I love about you as a filmmaker is when I watch a movie you make, I feel the passion of your film fandom coming through your work. We talked about Sleuth last night and films that have inspired you throughout the years. And you've made so many incredible films. You talk about this idea of Nathan and his scores and this music. When you're writing a script, how involved is Nathan in the process of what you write? Because a score is a leading character. A score can also give away clues throughout the film based on how music is used. How involved is the writing with that score?
Well, I'm rarely kind of going back and forth with Nathan while I'm writing, but when I get he's usually the first person I'll tell ideas to, and we will kind of bounce stuff off of each other. And then he's one of the first people I show a script to always. And we do back and forth, and he's very helpful in terms of giving notes, but mostly it's so we can start talking about tonally, where is this thing going to be musically? And Nathan, talk about doing something different every time. Like Nathan and I love the challenge of what is the completely unique approach to the score that's going to serve this movie best. And that's, you look at Nathan's scores and they're so completely different, each one of them. And this is his first time working with a full orchestra.
Is it really?
This is his first time writing for a full orchestra. We went out to Abbey Road together and recorded a full orchestra. It was so much fun. It was amazing.
Can I ask you what that looks? So when you're at Abbey Road recording, is your film playing there like a normal scoring session?
No, they have it timed out with like a click track basically. And so the conductor is then the conductor will have very often, like John Williams when he does it, he has a TV where he can see it, but the orchestra can't see the movie. And they're just kind of going along to the timing of what the conductor is telling them.
As a filmmaker who does continue to use the same people in your filmmaking process, your cinematographer, your Nathan, your composer, when you do something like you mentioned John Williams in Star Wars, is that just a commonly known thing that when you pick up that movie, Nathan's not going to be involved? Do you have to break that to him? Obviously, it's John Williams.
He understood. It's like, It's
got to be different working with a different composer, though.
It would have been funny if he was sulky about it. Like,
I can do Star Wars music too.
I would love to hear Nathan's Last Jedi score.
Are you kidding me, man? That would be fascinating. But listen, John, he's pure magic. You know what I mean? And Nathan I brought Nathan to a few of the scoring sessions, and Nathan was good.
I'm sure he was geeking out, man.
There's no one better than John Williams today, and it's he's extraordinary. And the process with John is opposite of the process with Nathan for me. In that with Nathan, we're very collaborative, and we're in there together. We're in sync. We're hands on. With John, it's this magical thing where you hand him the movie. It's like Spielberg puts it, you give John your movie and he gives you a whole new movie back. It really, you give it to him and he does his thing. There were only a couple of things where he played us and the first time you hear the cues that he's written is when you're on stage and they're being recorded by the full orchestra. And there's, because he doesn't temp anything up, he just writes them himself at the piano and scores them himself by hand. And then you show up on the day and you hear what he's done. There were just a couple of scenes in The Last Jedi where I even had adjustments for him, but mostly it's just like, yep, that's exactly what it needed.
I want to see you walk up to Williams and give him an adjustment.
Well, he's very he's very sweet. He's very open to that. He's not like this is the way it is. Not at all. He's incredible. I mean, he's a collaborator and he's very, very creatively open to collaboration. He thrives on it. Yeah.
You look at something like Brick. We were just talking about Brick when you walked in the room. What is the biggest lesson you learned on Brick as a filmmaker that still is applied today to this Knives Out film? Like if you look back and go, I learned that and Knives Out is better because of that.
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, Brick was really the first time I worked with real actors. So, working with Joe Gordon-Levitt and Noah Segan, who was, both of those guys are in Knives Out, and Nora and Lucas Haas. I mean, the whole crew. It was for me, that was, I think, learning on Brick that I loved working with actors, and that I took that was. It became, when I stepped onto the set of Brick, it was the scariest thing in the world to me. Because I think you imagine that there's some secret language actors have, or you need to speak in some kind of code to them or something. And the instant I clicked into this thing of realizing, we're just telling a story together. And if you can communicate clearly, and all you have to be is an audience for them, and you just have to react honestly in terms of what you're feeling from what they're giving you, and like if that's not serving the purpose of the scene, then you talk out how to adjust, But I don't know. I guess that was the big lesson the big thing I learned on Brick was that my favorite part of the process is working with the actors.
Is Noah's character in Knives Out you?
It's Noah.
I feel like
it's kind of both of us. Noah, as Noah puts it, he gets to be like the audience. He gets to be like the fanboy who's just happy to be there and is soaking it up and enjoying it all. Yeah. So yeah, it is kind of me too. I mean, for instance, one of my favorite types of scenes in all of fiction is the big denouement at the end where the detective lays the whole whodunit out in the library. And there's a moment during our version of that scene where Noah someone starts to say something that's going to interrupt, and Noah kind of shushes him because he's so excited about listening. He's so into the moment, and that's how I feel about those moments. So
that's cool.
But hopefully that's how the audience feels too. He gets to kind of be the one who's having fun.
Yeah. You think about, you mentioned Spielberg and filmmakers, and you are in a league where you are working on a level, in my opinion, where those filmmakers are, and I don't say that because we're sitting here, but I genuinely mean it. But I want to know: is there a story for you specifically where a filmmaker that you idolized growing up came up to you and said, "Ryan, I loved that film that you made"?
I mean, that's and
the one that hit you the hardest, maybe.
Yeah, there's nothing more powerful than that. I feel like I don't know. I'm hesitant to say it just because it would feel like bragging. I feel like I would be exposing that moment where it's just like a private, personal thing somebody told me that. But I've had a few of those moments, and there's nothing that it's almost too joyful to process when somebody who is your hero and somebody who you grew up watching their movies and somebody who you learned. I mean, in a way, when they compliment you, they're complimenting themselves back, because I feel like these are people who I learned just by studying their films over and over. So I always just, I've just replied, I learned it from watching you. I learned it from watching you, But I've been very, very lucky to have a couple of those moments. They're really special.
That's cool. I'm glad. I think that's cool that you keep them to yourself, though. Yeah. I appreciate that. And now, obviously, Breaking Bad, my favorite show of all time. I actually have a Walter White tattoo on
my kidding.
But you directed arguably the greatest episode in the show, Ozymandias, and I love the Fly episode. And I think you shot like some 16 and 8 on that, which is kind of cool. Yeah. But you look at what happened with El Camino recently, which was I thought Vince did a great job with it.
Gorgeous, man. It's beautiful. So beautiful.
What were your thoughts on where Pinkman's story ended?
That was perfect. Did you
envision him kind of coming out like that? Did you, like, when you were directing Pinkman's character? And
do you mean at the end of
Breaking Bad?
Breaking Bad, of the actual season, not at the end of El Camino?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what to. The great thing about Breaking Bad was you didn't know where it was going to go moment to moment. I mean, so no, it's not like I was on set with Ozymandias, and I didn't want to read I think the last 2 scripts are floating around, and I purposefully would like stick my finger in my ears when people were talking about them. I really didn't want to know, and no, I could have never guessed it. I mean, they went to such a dark place with it, but then that was the beauty of El Camino. I think, the moment in Breaking Bad where the last moment with Jesse is this cathartic kind of howl of release, and then to have this gorgeous, confident coda of El Camino, and to have, I don't know, Vince's filmmaking and his writing is so confident. It's so steady hand. He's got a steady hand. He knows exactly what he's going for, and he brings it there. And then to see this mature, beautiful performance from Aaron, I just loved it, man. It was terrific.
It's got to be cool to watch as somebody who was involved in that project. There's a great bit in Knives Out where Michael Shannon's character essentially wants to turn his father's books into movies, and Plummer's like, "We're not doing this. I'm essentially taking you off this this project. You're not going to be working on this anymore." What is a book, in your opinion, that should never be turned into a film?
That's interesting. I never. If I love a book, the last thing on my mind is adapting it.
Right.
To me, if I love a book, it's generally because the pleasure I get from it is tied directly to its form. And I think I've made the analogy before, like the idea of, I love this book, let's turn it into a movie, to me, that's kind of like, I love these boots, let's knit them into a sweater. It's just, a film is such a different thing. But some of the best films ever made have been adaptations of books. And some of my, Godfather, no kidding. And some of it, so what do I know? So but it's just in terms of creatively how I think, there's, a movie for me, and I think because I come up with my movies, I draw a lot of inspiration from books, but the story of a movie is a certain shape and a certain length, and I've always kind of come up with those from scratch, I guess. So if I'm reading, I'm rarely reading thinking like, how do I transform this into a movie?
Now, Evans's eat shit moment this is a podcast, we can curse, but it's classic. I mean, it's in the trailers, it's great in the movie. When you wrote that, was it any different from how you wrote it to how it ended up on screen? Do you remember filming it? Did you have him just say eat shit for like 2 hours? And like, how did that go down on the filming process, and how different was it from the writing of it?
Well, when I wrote it, it was fuck you. He goes, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, and I decided right before we started shooting, I was like, you know what? I really want this movie to be PG-13. Because I was thinking about like growing up as a kid watching those Peter Ustinov Poirot movies with my family and thinking that was the age when I got into this stuff, and I thought, you know what? Let's make this change, and I pulled a lot of F-bombs. There were a lot more F-bombs in this
script.
It feels
R, though.
Yeah, it's PG-13.
I know it's 13, but I think you still kept the tone of an R.
Good. Yeah, no, well, we kept the tone, but not the F-bombs. So I think I worked with Chris to figure out what he would do, and we came up with eat shit instead. Yeah.
I love character choices, and there's little things that always stick with me about what a character says or what they do. Two particular things I want to bring up too: the flipping of Daniel Craig's coin.
Yeah.
Is that a choice you make? Is that a choice Daniel makes? And can you speak to maybe why you think he does that? Why does he hit the piano key the way he does? Like, what are these choices that Daniel comes up with, or do you say like, maybe you should try this? What does the coin mean? Yeah,
no, they're written into the script, and typically they serve, for me, if something's in the script, it's because it serves a specific story requirement. So, for instance, the piano, which in the script is a little different. In the script, I had him tapping the back of the detective's chair with his foot. But then when I worked out the geography, I'm like, he's going to be too far away. But there's this piano here. This is kind of weird, but what if you hit the piano key? And the purpose of that was to kind of, first of all, to hold off Benoit's entrance, to give Lakeith's character a little bit of room to establish himself, and also just to build the anticipation, and also just to kind of build up the weirdness of this character a little bit. There is a logic behind when he's saying the piano key, but really it's just kind of a strange thing. Like when Tony Collette says, "Who is that guy?" Where it's what we're all kind of thinking, And then the coin flip was even more was just a very practical requirement of the story. I wanted something to indicate that because we use it to go to a flashback.
Yep.
So when he flips it up in the air, we go to a very specific flashback, and I want to very clearly indicate when we come back that we're coming back to the exact same moment.
That's cool.
So I had that coin go up, and then we come back, it's up in the air, and we have it come down. And so,
if Evans asks for a cold glass of milk, what does that say about his character? Like, it's just something specific thing that, like, to me, it resonates as an audience member. It's something it grounds the character in a certain reality for me.
Yeah, and
so is that why you do it like that?
Well, that just kind of feels right, and that's also it's kind of infantile, and it's kind of, there's something just annoying about people drinking milk and asking someone else for a cold glass of milk. It's almost like you'd ask your mom for a cold glass of milk. But it's just, there's something about it that makes him kind of, because at that moment he bursts in, and he's been set up as this kind of infantile child, basically. So the notion that he's eating cookies and milk just seemed to me that would just tag that base of he's just kind of like a brat. You know?
And even like Anna's vomiting element. I mean, that to me is such a perfect thing to kind of interweave throughout the script, because then every scene later on, is she lying or is she not? Like, it's such a great, that's such a useful little tool.
Well, and it's and that again, to get back to each one of these things is really just comes out of story needs. So with Anna's, her character has this thing where she can't lie. If she lies, she pukes. And the whole basis of that was, I mean, it's fun, but where it really came from is, it's a character who's in a really tough situation that we want her to get out of, and her only tool for getting out of it is lying, and you want to make life as difficult for your characters as possible. So let's take away the one tool she has to get out of this thing. And then it's like, well, okay, so we give her a tell when she lies. Does she blink twice or like touch her nose or something? And then, no, it's more fun to have her puke.
Yeah, and I love that aspect of the movie. As you're watching the film, there are, like, you learn about these characters in very short bursts. Like Jaden Martell's character, we learn that like there's a lot of bullying going on in his regard. Like people are making fun of him, and I find that to be interesting because as somebody who was bullied growing up, and like any type of bullying that's happening now on the internet, things like that, I thought that was such a relevant and interesting thing to do. As somebody, as a reporter, you know, you get one or two negative comments, it kind of sticks with you and kind of hurts your feelings. Yeah. As a filmmaker, you're out there to the world, and people are judging your work, and people can send you messages. And I know you talked a lot about what happened with Last Jedi and kind of getting all of the controversial comments from that. How do you how do you step aside from that and go, you know what, I'm going to continue down this path? Because I feel like a lot of people would kind of give up if they were getting negative comments. And I think that this is such a great film, and I'm just happy that you are doing the films you are. How do you move forward when you get negative responses? Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess, you know, I guess a big part of it is, I don't know, on Twitter, like the reason I'm still on Twitter is because 95% of what I get on there is incredibly positive and constructive. And so it's balanced by, it's more than balanced. The bad is overwhelmed by the amount of good. I'm not even talking good in terms of people liking the movies or liking the stuff, but good in terms of people being genuinely good-hearted and wanting to engage in a positive way, you know, and so with Star Wars that's absolutely the case, you know. So, you know, there is that balance, and in terms of the bad stuff, I'll tell you, it's interesting. That's been one of the really healthy things for me about the last couple of years is getting exposed to it. I mean, it. You know, before I made The Last Jedi, like I had never had anyone like hate me on the internet. If during the course of a year I got one negative tweet, I would go into a panic. I'd be like, oh my God, someone out there doesn't like me. I have to fix this. That's how I get when I get one comment. I can't imagine a filmmaker. The thing is, though, I am really, really thankful because what that meant is that my sense of self-worth was attached to the notion of everybody liking me online. Oh, interesting. And the fact that this process has made me out of survival disconnect from that. And also, I think it's given me a more realistic view of the system that is social media. You know, it's there's a lot of great, genuine interaction that goes on. I mean, the bad stuff, kind of the systematic trolling, the almost gamified abuse that some people devote their entire online presence to. Honestly, it kind of, once you've seen enough of it, you see the pattern of it, it kind of just gets boring after a while. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it doesn't even like give me the little negative ping of, anymore. It's literally, and I don't think it's even my skin growing tough. It's just, I've put it into perspective and realized this is kind of a byproduct of this, you know, social Twitter system. There's going to be some degree of people where this is their hobby, basically. So anyway, but overall I've found it's actually made me adjust to social media to where I am seeing it and using it in a healthier way, I think. I'm going to hit you with 2 rapid fire questions because we have like 3 minutes left. One thing I want to know, I asked you about this last night. I want you to educate our audience on Sleuth because I have not seen it, and I know that there's multiple versions. I think Michael Caine was in 2 of them, wasn't he? Wasn't he like a 90s and a 70s version? But that's like one of the best twists you've loved as a filmmaker, right? I love it. So just see the 70s version. Okay. The 70s version is the only one to watch. Watch the 70s version, which is Michael Caine and Laurence Olivier. The 90s version is not even, it's a totally different adaptation, and the 70s one. Why was Caine in the adaptation? Well, because, I mean, he played the opposite character. It was an interesting kind of flip, yeah. So anyway, it's Laurence Olivier and Michael Caine, and I don't know how you can get it right now. I ordered it today. Do you order it? You might have to order the DVD. $11.99 on Amazon if anyone wants to get it. Yeah, the less you know about, the better. But it started as a stage play. It was done originally as a stage play, and it's just got. I mean, even besides the twists, it's 2 of the greatest actors
just kind of going at each other for 2 hours with some of the sharpest dialogue possible. And the house that it's set in very much inspired the house in Knives Out. It's also, you know, Laurence Olivier plays a eccentric mystery writer, and the house is filled with his obsessions. And so you'll recognize a lot of the stuff from Knives Out in there.
Even involving all this press you're doing for Knives Out, have you had a chance to watch Mandalorian at all?
Not yet. I've been traveling so much, I haven't gotten to hook up my Disney Plus account. I started the registration process, and the wheel just kept spinning. I was like, shit, I gotta go to a screening.
I want you to guest direct in season 2.
Oh, dude,
that
I would love
Would
to,
you do
man.
it?
Oh, hell yeah. If I had time to do it, I would get in there in a heartbeat, man. Yeah, I visited set for season 1. It looked amazing.
That's awesome.
It looked so much fun, yeah.
All right, last Knives Out question.
Yeah.
I've seen it twice. I saw it at Toronto. I saw it here last night at the premiere. It's one of the best audience films I've ever seen in my life. And here's what I'll tell you, and I mean this truly. Last night we were at a premiere, and you know how Hollywood premieres can be like everyone in the room, we all know each other, and it could be like, you know, you don't know if that's an actual, a real life reaction. But the reaction I had at TIFF was just with an audience, and it felt the exact same energy, which I think is a very rare thing.
That's awesome.
I'm curious for you as a director, when you watch a film with the audience watching your movie, what is the scene that you are most excited to see how people react to, and like, is it getting the reaction you intended?
Yeah, I mean, whenever because I've been around to a lot of these screenings now, and so I've hit the point where I don't sit through usually the entire movie, but I will always come back for the last 20 minutes.
Cool.
And for me, that whole last scene with Daniel in the library, then the whole ending of the movie, watching how that plays, I feel like I can gauge if an audience is clicked in, and I don't know. I typically don't love watching my own work with an audience. I'm usually curled up in a ball and really nervous. With this, it is a joyful experience.
Can you imagine your 10-year
self
watching this movie?
It's so much fun. For me, it's so much fun. It could because what's going on up there is the actor, so I can enjoy their work all day long. You know.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for
appreciate
having me,
the time.
I appreciate it.
Everyone listening to this, go see Knives Out November 27th. See it multiple times because it does reveal a lot more on the other viewings, and keep an eye out for that awesome dolly
shot.
to over the shoulder.
The
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, man.